Hey guys, this is Kerry, and in this video we're going to be looking at the AP Explore task again, and we're going to be constructing the computational artifact component of the AP Explore task. So your computational artifact must provide an illustration, representation, or explanation of the computing innovation's intended purpose, its effect, or its function, or its effect. The computational artifact must not simply repeat the information supplied in the written responses and should be primarily non-textual. So here's an example one. It's this picture right here. And this is the example one that we were linked into in the last Google Doc. It shows a virtual reality headset exchanging information with the computer, and then it shows some statistics on it. Now, in reality, your Explore task does not need to include this much explanation at all. It can simply be an illustration of the device being used. And it should be primarily non-textual. So in my case, I'm going to actually not include any words on my computational artifact. All right, so if you remember, I chose Zoom as my computational device. You chose a different one in the last lesson. So what we're going to do to make this is we're going to go to our Google Drives, and we're going to click New, and we're going to create a Google Slides presentation. So this Google Slides presentation, we're going to just add a bunch of images, and if you are interested, some text too, and then you'll be able to construct your computational artifact. So you can choose any theme you want. I'm going to start with just the plain white theme. I'm going to put a title here that this is Zoom, because that's the name of my computational device. I'm going to click on the subtitle and then click the box and delete it because I don't need to have a subtitle. Now, I'm just going to make a picture collage showing all the different usages of Zoom. So going over to our rubric, before we do that, maybe it's a good idea to get a sense for what's required. So the computational artifact is worth 1 out of 8 points. And question 2b will have a lot to do with your construction of the computational artifact. But for this computational artifact, the computational artifact identifies the computing innovation. I've already satisfied that part with Zoom, and provides an illustration, representation, or explanation of the computing innovation's intended purpose or effect. So here's the decision rulings, and this is important to highlight. The written response can be used to aid the understanding of how the computational artifact illustrates, represents, or explains the computing innovation's intended purpose, function, or effect. So yeah, we're going to revisit this in the written responses, and we'll probably have a more sophisticated explanation. I'm just going to use pictures to illustrate how it's used. So do not award the point if any one of the following is true. So if there is no artifact. So this is the artifact, actually, the thing that we're making right now. The artifact needs to be computational. So if you do this by hand, where you cut out pictures from magazines and then take a picture of it, that wouldn't count. The innovation identified in the artifact does not match the innovation described in the written responses. So I'm going to be using Zoom for the artifact, which is the collage that I'm constructing. But I'm also going to be using Zoom for my written responses, and those have to match. The artifact does not identify the innovation clearly. Well, it does. It has Zoom right there in the title. The artifact does not illustrate, represent, or explain the innovation's intended purpose, function, or effect. Or the artifact illustrates a feature of the innovation instead of the purpose, function, or effect. Or the computational artifact doesn't clearly illustrate, represent, or explain as required in the scoring criteria, and the written response describes the innovation and intended purpose and function without explaining how the computational artifact illustrates, represents, or explains the intended purpose, function, or effect. All right, so I'm going to try to illustrate the intended purpose of Zoom by using pictures. So I did a handful of Google image searches here, and you guys all know how to do this. So you can actually very easily do this from here. You can take Zoom, this picture if you want to include it, and just drag it over to your Google Doc. Then you can put it in the position that you want to put it in. You can zoom in and out like that to resize it. All right, so that's good. I've got the icon. I think it would also be useful for me to show, a bunch of people in a meeting. So here we go, a bunch of people in a meeting. I think this is part of the purpose of Zoom. Okay. So scrolling down, let's see. Is there anything else I've missed? Oh, well, here we go. Coronavirus. I think that's a really important effect of Zoom, or purpose of Zoom, is that it's been allowing us to communicate remotely, even when the situations have been more complicated. Let's see. Maybe I'll get one that's a cell phone app, because that's nice to see too, that you can connect people on phone. So I'm going to grab this one here and drag it over. Okay. Now there's some other ones. Let's see. I did Zoom bombing. So an effective Zoom has been, unfortunately, people taking advantage of it and trying to send over, unwanted messages through the Zoom or bombing into a Zoom that they're not invited to. So I found this one down here. A stranger has entered the call, and I thought that one was a good one. So let's put that one here. So this is an effect that I'm trying to illustrate here. All right, so some of these are a bit sensitive with the Zoom bombing, where you have some hate speech symbols. It's going to be a choice about whether I choose to include those because I think they illustrate an effective Zoom, but they don't necessarily, I don't want to use them in a way that's egregious or inappropriate. I actually just also like this Zoom bombing picture right here, so I'm going to take that and drag it over as well. And I'm going to put these next to each other because I think they're connected pretty well with each other. I know you can't really see these, but when you keep in mind that this is going to be printed to be the size of a page, then I think things are going to turn out the way you want them to turn out. All right, so let's just see. I also thought this was really useful to show Zoom usage in the last month. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to resize some of these pictures so that I can prioritize the inclusion of this graph. So Zoom's been like super instrumental for a lot of people in how they're surviving the coronavirus, how they're continuing to interact with people that they know. So let's see. You can start to get a pretty nice collage by moving these things around. All right, so in particular, I actually really liked this one here, Zoom tops weekly download charts. So Zoom was actually even beating out TikTok recently in the March 26th to April 1st, 2020 period of time. So I'm going to shrink that down and put that here. There we go. All right, so let's see. Can I resize this slider bar? No. Okay, I'm gonna have to zoom in on this in a bit when I get all the images I want. Let's see. I think we're gonna go for one more image here. Perhaps this one. It's a little bit hard to make out the details, so let's see. Do I need to have all of these? Yeah, I kind of like all of those. All right, can go back and find one more, like this maybe, where it's a big picture of somebody. Okay. All right, cool. So even if some of the images are hanging off the page a little bit, I think that that's going to be okay. So let's just zoom in here. So this is what my collage is going to look like. And maybe I'll name it AP Explore Task Example in my case. So now in order to turn this into the AP exam, let's just see, I want to center that zoom a little bit better. And you can use the arrow keys to get some fine centering. Perhaps maybe we didn't even need to have the word zoom here because we have it on so many of the different things. But just to be clear about identifying it, maybe I'll Command U, underline it. Maybe I will highlight it a bright blue because I have, you could try to get that to match the blue from Zoom if you wanted to. I don't know, that's fine for my sake. You can mess around with it and get it to be even better. All right, so after you've resized everything and you like the way that it looks, the next step is to turn it into the AP exam. So the way that you're going to turn it in is you need to convert this to a PDF file. So to convert it to a PDF, if you try to just save it automatically, it's going to download it as a .pptx document. So you can download it as a .pdf document right here. So let's see if that works. So if you download it as a PDF document, you can click it, and then it will open it. And that looks pretty good, actually. I'm happy with how that came out. So to turn this document in, you can take it straight from the downloads folder and you can email that to me to make sure that I have a copy of it. So you can just drag it and attach it to an email like we always do. And then when you want to turn it into the AP exam, you'll go to the College Board website and you can do it there. All right, so please email me with any questions that you have if any of it wasn't clear. But let's make sure that I hit all the points on the rubric. So it's a pretty simple project here. It's not that fancy. Did I identify the computing innovation? Yes. Did I provide an illustration, representation, or explanation of the computing innovation's intended purpose, function, or effect? Yeah, I think we've got its function. It's a bunch of people in meetings. We've got the coronavirus component of that that's made it so popular. And an effect of it is that Zoom bombing has become increasingly dangerous as Zoom has become increasingly popular. So I think I've satisfied the parts of the explore task here for the computational artifact. And your assignment today is to do the same for the thing that you chose. If you find that you can't find things on Google image searches for your project, remember that you can always do a Command-Shift-4 on a Mac to screenshot a section of the page. And then once you screenshot it, you can take that file from your desktop and drag it over onto the image, or onto the slide, and then you'll have that image in your slide. You should be able to do this on any kind of computer using the simple drag and drop type methodology, including a Chromebook. All right, guys, hope this was helpful. This is an important part of your AP Explore task, even though it might seem a little bit simple. Don't make it overcomplicated, you know? All right, bye, guys.